Joe House is here. He is dressed almost like a Washington Commanders NASCAR driver. There's just Washington stuff everywhere. You're getting a colonoscopy tomorrow. You're drinking the colonoscopy juice. There's been fireworks in the house. This is the most action-packed $1 million picks we've ever had. Your team might make the Super Bowl. It's in play.
I mean, first of all, you see all this gear, what I have on, what's behind me. You're going to see none of that when I'm in Philadelphia this weekend. This is the last time you're going to see any of this stuff because I am not catching any hands when I'm up there. I'm not looking for it, right? I'm too old.
We're too old.
Smoke.
We're too old to wear the visiting
Yeah.
team's merchandise. We can't do it.
Definitely
Just
not
gotta
in
go.
Philly.
You support the team,
There we
root
go.
silently, and hope you don't get punched. Also, if you do get in a fight in the stands, though, make sure it's to somebody who's below you. This is the Russillo technique.
Great.
The guy in the higher ground always wins in the football things. Anyway, don't punch House. He's a great guy.
I'm gonna try my best not to get punched. I mean, if beers get poured on me, that's fine. I'll go with that. But I will tell you on the subject of the procedure, my screening procedure, this health path that we're on. You can tell how unimaginable it was that I would have something football related in my life this weekend. I mean, I scheduled the colonoscopy months ago, right? Because I look at the calendar, like, oh, sure, it's conference championship weekend. That's fine. I mean, I'll be.
Yeah, you're not playing conference championship.
No,
this turned out to be the Dan Snyder colonoscopy. You're releasing all the Dan Snyder feces and toxins out of your body.
Toxins, yes.
Yeah, it's symbolic.
It's amazing, really. Yeah, it really is. All of it's coming out. I can tell you that much. In fact, we might have to take a break 10 minutes in here.
All right. Well, the listeners / viewers will never know. We'll just do a nice clean edit, and you can come back with a nice happy look on your face.
As clean as my colon, hopefully.
We didn't do well $1 million picks last week. We lost $585,000, but we were still up $1.282 million for the year. I'm okay with what happened last week. I would take Baltimore again. And your team, we kind of had to see it. I wish I took Washington. I didn't have the balls. I just didn't. I didn't have the balls to take a rookie QB against a team that felt like they were going to run all over you, which they basically did, but it didn't matter because they turned the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
House turnovers are the story of this last round. There's so many. There might even be turnover in your pants. There's so many stories this week about turnover battle, like the Bills, 21 straight games where they haven't lost a turnover battle. Like hasn't happened since 1960. There's all these good metrics for if you look like this Bills team just with turnovers, you end up winning the Super Bowl. Chiefs haven't turned the ball over in 2 months. This round, the last 4 teams, none of them have a turnover. And I just wish I wasn't saying it this way, but it's almost as reductive as, at least with the Chiefs-Bills game, whoever doesn't turn the ball over is probably going to win. I feel stupid saying it, but I think it's true.
Well, the 2 aspects of it for sure that all 4 of these teams have an advantage is taking sacks, these quarterbacks not taking sacks, and these teams, being on the correct side of the turnover margin. Both Washington and Philadelphia arrive for their matchup +6, the exact same number through these playoffs. And nobody would have forecasted this for Washington, I don't think. I mean, that's what's truly remarkable. And for sure, I think the handicap that now by the time on Sunday on the Ringer pregame show in advance of the divisional games, yes, indeed, I thought that 9.5 points. I finally had the balls to say it. The Detroit favored by 9.5 was goddamn disrespectful.
You didn't have the balls to say it when we did $1 million picks.
Oh, good. I couldn't remember.
No,
I did not.
You were like
we teased it. Didn't we tease it?
Yeah, you're being cute. You're being cute about it. I think you deep down knew your team had a real chance. I'm a little annoyed.
5.
I know. A little
5.
annoyed.
There
well,
he is.
Let's go backwards because you haven't been on the pod since Washington wins this game. Top 5 sports moment of your life?
Absolutely. Yes.
Unquestionably?
I would say unquestionably because of how far we've come, how unexpected it was. I mean, I feel now like it's a bad analogy coming on here every single week and saying to you that if we wrote this script out, if you wrote real life as it's occurring and said this is a script about a football team, every production house would turn it down, say this is this is trash. And
like
yet,
a sports movie, they dumped their terrible owner who hated the fans, who almost like ruined football in an entire city that loved football. And then the new guy comes in, new coach, new GM, new QB, and they just go on a winning streak.
well, not just new QB, possibly the greatest rookie in the history of the football game. I mean,
I know there was a few of those stories this week.
I mean,
we were there for
back it up.
Marino. Marino was pretty great. Now,
He's pretty
granted,
great.
we only got to see him a couple times, but yeah, with the Daniels
Different
adding
era.
the playoff wins to it, pretty nuts. There's a lot to cover with this game. The Washington piece, I can't shake. There's some 2001 Pats parallels.
Oh,
And
interesting.
watching your excitement with this. The Pats, so they were like 5-5 after 10 games, and then they didn't lose again.
Mm.
And at some point, weird shit started happening, leading to the snow game, which was like, that was when they finally pulled us in, and none of the Pats fans wanted to believe and say, no, believe. We had like weird Brady Bledsoe stuff. But, Bledsoe got hurt. It was an up and down season. We had that with the defense and the coaching. You have it with your offense, but
Yes.
you guys are 14-5. You guys won 8 straight games. It's not like they're like, oh my God, what's Washington doing here? Like at some point, Washington's just good. And I'm really leaning toward taking them in the game, not just with the points, but outright.
Woo.
I really think they can win. And we'll get into the Philly stuff in a second, but let's just get that out of the way. I don't think this is fluky. I think that Daniels has been that good. The coaching has been that good. The guys over and over again, you've had like these semi-miraculous wins, these comeback wins, these fourth quarter wins, and there's a mojo that develops that I think defies imagination. I picked against Washington the last 2 rounds.
Understandable.
I'm tired of doing it. Like at some point, you got to accept what's going on, and something is going on.
It does feel like something is going on. I mean, I can't view it from my in an unbiased kind of way. And for sure, the sum of all of these guys together believing is greater than the parts, because you can't sit down and do X's and O's. You can't do advanced metrics. You can't use any of those things to truly capture the spirit of this team and the way these guys believe. And they just believe, and that belief in each other. I mean, it's an incredible combination of veterans and rookies, and the veterans, right. Some guys that have been there before. Bobby Wagner's been there before. So for a defense that by all metrics, it's the worst unit on the football field come Sunday, but somehow or another, we keep getting W's. They just keep getting W's, Bill Simmons.
Yeah, it's like the 30th defense DVOA against the run. Your defense is basically what the 0-1 Pats offense was. Every week we're like, how are we going to score points? Like we have Jermaine Wiggins as a tight end. Our only good offensive player is Troy Brown. We have a rookie QB who they're terrified to have him really do anything. And each week we would just patch together points. And the same thing's happening with your defense, where it's like, how is this defense going to stop anybody? And you're just getting turnovers. But the thing is, it was like Detroit. Yeah, they had 5 turnovers. There were some bad plays. Washington also made some good plays. Like that guy jumping the post route on the TD in the end zone. That was a good fucking play.
Outstanding. Yes. Yeah. But the rookie Mike Sanders still had 2 interceptions. And I feel very proud of myself. In one of my threads with actually a guy with the team, I said, this is part of the revelation. This guy Sanders, still the kid from Michigan, he's been unbelievable. But he is for sure benefiting from the overall gravitas of this defense. Dan Quinn can coach up a defense. He's got the spine. You have Jeremy Chin playing safety. You've got Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner where they are, and it does. They just really do believe. And look, they held Tampa to 20 points, and we watched that Tampa offense go out and just post points on everybody. Now, it did feel like if Detroit had stuck with the run, that they might have been able to run for 250 yards in the second half, and they might have won that football game, but they chose not to. And that kid, who had at least some role in it, is now going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So good luck to them.
Yeah, he got to stay in your conference.
Their conference.
Well, you're the Washington conference. The Bears. Ben Johnson. Get to play him. The Washington piece of this, big picture. if they could actually win this game. Where do the Eagles rank on most hated Washington opponents? They're not number one, but they're in the top 3, right?
Well, because we hate everybody in the NFC
You hate
East,
Dallas the most, though.
Yes, hate Dallas the most for sure. It's mutual hatred amongst all of the franchises in the NFC East, and each team has their own, which one they hate the most. I think the Giants hate the Eagles the most. I think the Eagles hate Dallas the most. I don't know, but for sure, Washington hates Dallas the most. Philadelphia, let's, be real about it, wasn't really on the radar for a long time.
Well, you've only played them once in the playoffs. It's like the weirdest rivalry that's not actually a rivalry. It felt like the last couple of years it was more fun because you guys would have some good games. You beat them last year.
Well, it doesn't I'm not that surprised that Washington and Philadelphia have only faced each other in the playoffs once, because that means both teams have to make it in and in the previous iteration.
Well, when you think they've been playing football for 80 years, one time seems low.
Sure.
And Daniels is the most popular Washington athlete since I've known you. It's either him or Manute. It's either him or George Weir's son.
I mean, your all-time greats are John Riggins and
the Hogs.
There are several generations of Washington fans that didn't have football in their lives. So Alex Ovechkin ranks pretty high up in terms of Washington icons. But Daniels is in the conversation. Let there be no doubt. Some old heads like me like Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes, but that's old head shit.
Finishing last, Andre Blatch. All right. So to get to the point where I want to have the balls to take Washington, no Nakobe Dean. That's good.
Yes.
Here's the big thing. Do your thing about how you think Hurts is hurt. Because this is the number one reason to take Washington is there is something wrong with Jalen Hurts. The stats back it up, the eye test back it up, and his knee got bent backwards during the game, and they've been tight-lipped about it. I don't think they tell us if he was hurt, but do your thing.
Yeah, and we watched it. It was a bad stretch, and it was bad enough that I wondered in the moment whether that was a tear, whether that was a ligament tear. Right. It turned out it clearly was not a ligament tear, because that would have been announced on Monday. But the discussion all week has been, we presume that Jalen Hurts is going to play. We expect Jalen Hurts to play. I mean, we watched the way that knee bent, and they definitely shot him up with something, because his behavior in the interview after that game when he was with Saquon, that was a version of Jalen Hurts that is not your sort of standard issue post game.
Right.
He had a kind of aura. Let's just put it at that. But look, if Washington only has to stop Saquon Barkley, preposterous kind of task that's in front of them. If Jalen Hurts isn't going to throw the football down the field, it takes him too long. We've been watching this now, and I know you have the stats that back it up, where for throws that are 10 yards or longer down the football field, it's just taking too long for him to get the ball out of their hand and out of his hand, and they're not throwing the ball anyway. I think
he's taking sacks, which he didn't take before. There was a great Twitter thread of all of the worst plays he had in that last game.
Yeah.
And it was just video after video. And it was like, Jesus, he looks like freaking Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like, what's this dude doing? I really thought long and hard about the matchup, because my instinct was take Washington, and I didn't have a good week last week. And I kept coming back to the total yardage, which I sent to you. There was most rushing yards ever in the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. The case for the Eagles, which I'm not against, is that they're going to run the ball down Washington's throat. They're going to control the game, and they're just going to have the ball a ton. You're only going to get like 6 possessions. One bad thing, you won't get a 4th and 2. Maybe there's a tip pass turnover, and all of a sudden the Eagles are up 10 and they win. The thing that's interesting to me is how few times in the title game a team has just run the ball down somebody else's throat. And I sent this to you. Just in the last 40 plus years, only one team in the NFC title game has gotten to 200 plus yards rushing. That was the Niners against the Packers in 2020. Other than that, we're talking 81 Eagles, 71 Cowboys, 80 Rams, 73 Vikings, 97 Packers. And then you get into that 169 to 196 range. And there's some more modern teams there. The Lions last year, the Seahawks in January 2015, the Bears. But my point is, it's unusual, like really, really historically unusual to rush for 200 plus in this second to last game of the season. So my question to you is, how many yards are the Eagles going to have in this game when you factor in Hurts is throwing for 130 to 150 yards a game? That puts them in like the low 300s, which you get every week.
And the crucial thing for what you just shared in terms of Philly's approach is if Jalen Hurts can't run, go ahead and set Saquon Barkley's over-under at 199.5 yards. If Washington can hold him under 200, I like Washington's chances.
But 200 would be that would be one of the two best performances of the last 45 years. How about
I
set
don't
it
think
at 150?
I don't. Well, I don't. It's Saquon. He's been unbelievable. I mean, he rips off 70-yard runs. But to me, the larger point is if that dimension of Jalen Hurts is not on the table, and we'll know within the first, series, we'll see how he moves.
Yeah.
If he is not a threat to run the football down the field, then that changes things immensely. And Washington,
right, like that long touchdown run he had in the first quarter last week.
Take that away. If that threat isn't there, then it changes things. It tilts things for the Washington defense.
In the AFC title game, no team has ever rushed for 200 plus yards. The last team in the last, the 99 Broncos rushed for 178.
It makes sense.
The 2015 Pats ran for 177. So it's important to remember, Saquon's going to run all over them. Well, when we get to the Final Four, that's usually not happening in the way you think it's going to happen. And then if Hurts is going to look throwing the ball like he has the last few weeks, and really like the whole season, I haven't really liked watching him all season. And, it seems like you look at the stats and the advanced stats for him the last 3 years, it's not that far off. But then DeBundo wrote a great piece for The Ringer today about the Eagles passing game. And it's like they basically just kind of punted on it.
Yeah.
And maybe try to take 2 shots a game, but other than a couple Dallas Goedert plays. But for the most part, they're just trying to run the ball and control the clock. The question for me, though, if you can hang around, what we saw from the Eagles in that fourth quarter against the Rams, where it just felt like the front four died. They started to get tired, and the Rams are just moving the ball down the field on them. The receivers are getting open. That's what that's what he does.
Well, and here's the thing. Washington, from the minute that they get the ball in the first quarter, is going to be playing no huddle up tempo offense.
Right. And 4 down offense too. Yeah, any 4th and 2, 4th 3, they're going for it.
Going for every single one of those. Every series that Washington possesses the ball will be a 4 down series in the sense that they're going to try, if they're close at all and they're not on the wrong side of their own 30-yard line, that they'll go for it. And at some point the cumulative effect of that on a defense. This is why, the Jalen Carter piece is significant. And Washington lost its
make
best
his
offensive
ass tired.
lineman.
Right. Yeah, we
just watched
Cosme.
it, but we lost Sam Cosme. Now, Washington in its own shrewd way is being coy about, how they're going to play this. And there is a thought that Andrew Wiley might slide from the left side over to the right side. And he has played some right guard for Kansas City, but it was several years ago. And, they have talent on this offensive line, but really it's a Kingsbury scheme thing that's been most impressive. So it's a huge loss to lose Cosme. But the Jalen Carter piece, man, he got tired. He made the play of the game, I would say, on a really bad play call. McVay said that there was a miscommunication and that led to,
I always watch for that from a live bet standpoint. These teams that have these awesome pass rushes the first 2 hours of the game. In that fourth quarter, it gets a little different once the guys have been out there for 3 hours.
Well, and another time we saw it, the last time Washington played Philadelphia, when Washington came back from down 2 scores.
Scored 36 points.
Yeah, the most points anybody scored on this Philadelphia defense all season.
So McShay and I talked earlier about how there's been 3 Washington seasons, basically. You had that first stretch in the beginning when it was oh my God, what's going on? Daniels got hurt. You had some injuries. Eckler got hurt. Like, it's just, you didn't. And then all of a sudden you had your full team again and it came on. But you go back to that. You lost to Philly in week 11. And from that point on, Dallas week 12, you put up 412 yards. Tennessee, 463. Saints, 326. Eagles in week 16, 368. Atlanta, week 17, 412. Week 18 against Dallas throughout because that wasn't
Mariota. It was a Mariota week.
Tampa, wild card, 350. And then last week, Detroit, 481. So if you're taking a team on the road, I want to make sure they can move the ball. And everyone's like, this Eagles defense, it's really good. It's the best defense in the league. But I think Washington can move the ball on them because we've seen them do it. And then the question is, how special is Daniels? And that becomes the narrative out of this. Can he get there? There's a couple playoff manifesto rules in play. Rule number 3, beware of the nobody believes in us team, but don't try to talk yourself into one either. I'm not sure they qualify anymore because it seems like this week there's some good discourse about people believing in them. Last week, definitely nobody believed in them.
The funny thing is that I feel like, from the sort of national NFL media perspective, there's a lot of believers in Washington, but the market does not believe in Washington because this line opened at 4.5 and it got slammed all the way up to its present 6.5 spot.
Yeah, and I think the general consensus is the Eagles are going to run all over them. Their defense will shut them down. And this was a nice congratulations, Washington, for making the NFC title game, but it's time to go home. Rule number 6, never pick an underdog unless you genuinely believe that it has a chance to win.
I believe.
I think it's, I honestly think either team could win. So with the plus 6.5,
I believe.
I think they can win. I don't know if they're going to win. I think they're going to win. Rule number 14 was beware of any team that reminds you of the 2007 Giants. I'm going to add the 2001 Pats to this list.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I think there's something that happens with teams that get thrown together over the course of a season when they can get hot like this and some funky stuff happen. But when you think about, you go backwards, you think about the 4.5 months with Washington and the Hail Mary and some of these games you pulled out of your ass. At some point, you develop like these winning scars almost.
I agree with this.
So if they're hanging around in the fourth quarter and they're down 3, I'm going to be mad if I bet on Philly.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you have any more manifesto things?
Yeah. Rule number 16, take one last look at the quarterbacks. And remember, there's plenty of time to bet against any QB or coach. So this would really apply to Hurts because if it's like, wait till next round to bet against Hurts, that would go. But I mean, not only is Daniels the best quarterback in this game, he has been out of control. I mean, he's 70% of his passes. Even if you look at like his last 7 or 8, he's like 20 touchdowns, 6 picks. He'll have the one throw a game.
Sure.
But he completes 70% of his passes, and every 4th down and 2 and every 4th down and 3, you just feel like he's going to get it.
And incredibly, he just doesn't take sacks. He just doesn't Washington just doesn't get that setback thrown at him. Now, I do want to, if I can have a moment,
throw some water on some stuff.
Pour some settle down juice on the whole situation, right? Because
let's hear it.
We're talking about an absolutely unprecedented outcome. First of all, this is Washington's 4th road game coming up here.
It's not unprecedented. The Pats, well, I guess the Pats played their first game at home in 2001, but the Pats were 14-point underdogs against this, or 13-point underdogs against the Steelers, and then 14 against the Rams.
Yeah. So the starting point is 4th road game.
4th road game in a row.
In a row. Its own unique challenge. But here's the stuff. It's the rookie quarterbacks in conference championship games. Never
talked about this last week. Yeah.
0-5 straight up. Only 1-4 against the spread. Also, teams like Washington that were underdogs in the first 2 rounds and covered both of those rounds. 1-5 straight up. 2-4 against the spread when it comes time for the conference championship. And this one also underdogs in divisional rematches. So Washington's the underdog. It's a divisional rematch. 0-4 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. I mean, that's your settle down juice, right? There's no precedent for a team in Washington's position to actually win this game.
I think you can win. There's 2 scenarios. There's the scenario we laid out earlier where the Eagles just run the ball down your throat. You don't get a 4th and 2. There's 1 turnover. You're down 13. You kind of know by the 3rd quarter. Great
It
run,
could.
guys.
It
Great
could
run,
be.
guys. Then there's the other scenario where the Eagles can't throw the ball at all. Washington is just loading up on Saquon. The fans are frustrated. You get one turnover, one strip sack, something. Maybe you get a special team, something, and you're just hanging around, and it can get to the fourth quarter where it's either tied, you're up 3, you're down 3, but you're in the mix of exactly where the Eagles fans don't want to be with this Eagles team. And that's it. It's one of those two scenarios, and I gotta say I'm leaning toward Washington plus 6.5. The colonoscopy juice has not really kicked in, so that's a good sign for Washington, I think. I was thinking about the last 20 minutes we just did is going to be hilarious if you lose like 45-10.
It
Be
could
like, remember
happen.
the hope?
It
The
could
hope
happen
in their eyes?
It would still be fine. I'm beyond, any reasonable hope or expectation for this team, the franchise, what they've done. Those moments of joy. I mean, I hate that Washington did what it did to Detroit of all franchises. I bear no ill will towards Detroit, but they did shut that stadium up. I mean, it was silent in there, and nothing would be more beautiful than doing that to the Philly crowd. But look, Philly might come out and just put us on our backs and run the road sled right over us. It is possible. They have the best offensive line. It's an incredible offensive line that Philly possesses.
What was the demeanor of Washington after the game? Was it like they won the Super Bowl, or was it like 2 more?
Something in between those two, because there continues
just want to make sure
be,
it wasn't like we did it. Oh my God! And then
there's a lot of enthusiasm. There are those guys are they believe in each other, so they're coming out of both the Tampa game and that Detroit game like there's a swagger, but there's also for sure some exuberance. Let there be no doubt.
If you could take your colonoscopy juice stained underwear and mail them to Dan Snyder without getting arrested, would you do it?
Oh, I mean, first of all, they're small stains. I sent you the picture. I would. I mean, what I would send Dan Snyder wouldn't be those. They're not nearly foul enough. He deserves so much worse.
Juice house. We've had drunk house, buzzed house, sober house, and now we have colonoscopy juice house. Chiefs Bills. I just don't have a lot of. It's stupid to even talk advanced numbers with this game. I don't really know what to say other than the Chiefs just win these games all the time. They've lost 3 times in the playoffs with Mahomes. We went through the losses last week. The only one where they really got their ass kicked was the Super Bowl. They should have beaten the Patriots, and we lucked out. Even the Patriots fans would admit that. And the Bengals game where Mahomes clearly got concussed near the end of the first half, that was what it was. Otherwise, they just win these games. The line is disrespectful. Everyone's disrespected. The Bills are disrespectful from last week. They're trying to get the nobody believes in us. It's like, well, the Ravens were the best team in the league. Like, there's a reason they ended up being favored. It's
the Bills
come down
really are a nobody believes in us team. Do you agree with that at least? Nobody believes in the Bills.
I feel like a lot of people are taking them this week.
Okay. I mean, that line hasn't moved. Opened at 1.5, stuck right there at 1.5.
But that to me says the Bills aren't a nobody believes in us team. They're playing on the road against a team that's been to 4 of the last 5 AFC title games, so they're only plus 1.5.
Fair enough. I will say this. Let's see what happens when the public wakes up Sunday morning or, Saturday night going into Sunday. Because right now, this is just a professional market, right?
Buffalo's secondary looking a little banged up.
Not only looked, they are banged up. Both Christian Benford. I don't know if he practiced. I mean, he had a concussion on the last play of the game against the Ray, and Taylor Rapp was questionable with the hip injury. I mean, there's serious issues in their secondary.
So there's a working case for a Buffalo pick, and there's a working case for a Chiefs pick. The Chiefs case is partly what we laid out about this is just the infrastructure of what they do. This is the best mini dynasty we've had since the Pats. Combined with the fact that there's really 2 KCs now. trying to play this 20-game season where every year they're playing 19 or 20 games, and they're one way in the regular season, and they're barely scraping by, and then around late December they start, and then in January they become a different team. So that's why it's almost like you can't look at the numbers, but they're home. This is a game they should win. They hate the Bills. So there's all of that. And I really like their team. I think this is the best they've looked the last couple of weeks. The case for the Bills is just Josh Allen grabs the torch from Mahomes. Then that's it. Because that's the only way they're winning.
He could do it.
Fucking grab the torch.
He could do it.
Takes him, walks off a la Peyton Manning in 2006.
One of the things that the Texans showed us last week is that, there was a bunch of supportive numbers for the idea that Kansas City's run defense was a dominant run defense. And then Joe Mixon got the ball, and the Texans with their the weakest unit of that Texans team is their offensive line. And somehow they established the run, and Mixon was really effective. And the Texans out yardaged the Chiefs, by quite a bit. Like, if the Texans.
That was a weird one, though, because they had the long kick return. So they had and then a 3 and out, but they still scored 3 points. I don't know.
Okay. I'm talking only about the ability
No, I know they had
more
more yardage,
to establish the run. But no, I'm saying they established the run. And
they did.
And Buffalo's offensive line is good. And if James Cook gets cooking, and Josh Allen, one of my favorite props of this week, especially with the quiet rush yards game that Josh Allen had. Now, he did get to 10 attempts, over 8.5 attempts last week. That was a giant cash for everybody. I hope everybody listened to the Ringer pregame show. But he was way under his yardage number. I do not expect him to be under his yardage number this week. This is a by any means necessary. Pull it all out. Pull out every stop. Pull it right out of your butthole. Nice and clean, Josh Allen. I think he's going to rush. I think 50 is a great number.
So I guess my question is, I really feel like Buffalo should have lost to Baltimore last week. And I know that pisses the Baltimore fans off. It used to piss me off as a Pats fan when we would beat somebody in the playoffs. Then people are like, you shouldn't have won. You lucked out, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, well, we didn't fucking turn the ball over, and they did. And we forced turnovers, so fuck you. So I get it.
It's a fair answer.
I just think Buffalo this whole season has looked a little better than they actually are. And the Chiefs have looked a little worse than they actually are until recently. And one team, I think, has a little higher ceiling than the other team. Unless Josh Allen just says, watch this.
He could.
That's why the line's 1.5. That's why you get 1.5 for being at home. It's a perfect matchup. I just like the Chiefs' infrastructure. Like, there was that moment in the Houston game last week when all of a sudden Spags dialed up all those funky blitzes, right? He's like waiting. He's like, bam. And he just went after Stroud and fucked up a whole Texans drive. There's some institutional knowledge of how to win these playoff games that I just don't want to bet against. And if Buffalo beats them, so be it.
I totally agree. I mean, that has to be the approach, right? Like, why would we put ourselves through the mental gymnastics to get to a spot where we say, like, definitively, affirmatively, yes, the Bills are going to win this game, and the points and all, we'll grab the points, and the Bills is a case to make. You have to work so hard. It's the simple case. It's the case you just made. Josh Allen does the thing, does the superlative, superior thing, and that would be awesome. And I'll be fine with losing my money if he does it. I'm not kidding, but I'm not betting against the Chiefs. Just not going to do it. Not at this number. Not at this number that they've won and covered every single time in the playoffs where it's been under 3 in this neighborhood. Yeah, sign me up.
We talk about this. Oh, well, we did it last year. We bet against the Chiefs against the Ravens in the AFC title game. And it was a never again.
Never again. Lesson learned.
It was, for me, at least as long as Mahomes is in his prime, and as long as the Reed coaching infrastructure and they have a good enough team and they have Kelsey or somebody like him, I didn't like the feeling of being like, why the fuck did I bet against the Chiefs? So they're going to have to lose before I stop doing it. And it's a little bit of us staying at the blackjack table too long, but I also, Mahomes is in his late 20s. Like,
no, yeah, and respectfully, it wasn't you didn't have me on $1 million picks for that Ravens Chiefs game,
but you also had the Ravens.
Oh no, I did not. I
You
definitely
had the
did not.
Chiefs? Did you zag it?
It was 4.5 or 5 points. It was preposterous. Yeah, that line was crazy talk.
Playoff
Love the Chiefs.
manifesto. Really nothing unless we want to create a manifesto rule for the Chiefs.
They might deserve their own rule.
Rule number
16-3 in the
17
playoffs?
is don't try to be a hero, just try to win money. And that really applies to the Josh Allen thing. It's like the Josh Allen scenario. It's like, don't try to be a hero. Are you really ready when it's third quarter and it's 19-17 Chiefs and they have the ball and they're driving? Or are you gonna be kicking yourself? There was a rule I proposed last year that I didn't really adopt, but maybe I should. New rule. What does the NFL really, really, really want to happen?
Mm. This is very funny in view of what we watched out of the referees in that Houston game.
Wow. And it's been a big topic.
Has it?
They really love the Chiefs. On the other hand, would like a Buffalo-Washington Super Bowl or a Buffalo, like, I just feel like the one Super Bowl matchup that everybody's going to be like, what the fuck is KC Philly? Right? That'll be the one we're like, we already did this.
It's
Come
still
on.
pretty good, though. We did
I know,
it.
but we
did
already did
do it. It's still pretty good. It was
Every
a good
other
Super Bowl.
matchup, super fun, though.
was an
Washington,
incredible
Buffalo,
Super Bowl.
Washington, Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly. Every version of that is fun. The KC Philly is, both of them have won Super Bowls within the last 10 years. They've already played each other. I just can't get that excited about it. I still don't like watching Philly's offense. But as fun as Barkley is, it's really like a slog watching the 39 seconds of play.
You know who agrees with you? AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Brown. What's going on here? He's also not healthy, by the way. That's another guy. He might come out and look, with a spring in his step, but we haven't seen it. And those drops last week were big time.
I had a couple of prop bets for you before we get to the picks.
Yeah, I have some for you. Let's hear them.
What do you have? I'll hear yours first if you want.
No. Go ahead.
Daniels, no interceptions, -104.
I don't love it.
I wish the odds were better.
I don't love it only because of what you sort of observed was possible earlier, which is
the tip pass at the line of scrimmage.
That defensive line.
He gets hit as he's throwing it. All right, cross that up.
Yeah.
Mahomes over 4.5 carries, -128, which is, it just feels like this line should be 6.5 because he's going to scramble 4 times. There's the kneel down possibility.
It's the same number as last week, and we really didn't sweat that at all. I don't like this at this stage of the playoffs. Those two guys are running the football. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are running the football.
So that juice on that's -128 on FanDuel.
Fine.
Josh Allen to score a touchdown is -115. I love the odds, but it just feels like if they're around the goal line, you could even see it last week against the Ravens. They were just doing the traditional QB draw play over and over again.
He's a battering ram. He's a bad boy. Him in the end zone makes a lot of sense to me.
And then Kelsey hitting his over, which is 67.5, and Casey to win is +202. And I feel like those two are
correlated.
Yeah.
Correlated. Yes. I agree with this.
So I marked that one down. Casey and Washington to be the Super Bowl is +518. Here's my favorite one though. This is a 5-member same game parlay.
Wow.
Kelsey 50+ yards.
Okay. 50
yes
plus.
Or no?
Sure.
50 yards.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
Matt Collins, 1 catch.
He's
gotten a catch
one?
every week. Just one catch from Matt Collins. He always gets a catch.
As long as he doesn't get kicked out of the game, because he's a psychopath. As long as he doesn't get kicked out, then I like the idea of 1.
Daniels, 250+ passing, rushing combined.
That's kind of appetizing because
he's way over that every game. He would basically have to get hurt not to get that.
He's in the 50 to 75 yard rush without really,
and at least 200. Yeah. All right. Dallas Goedert, 25+ yards.
That's one of my favorite props of the entire. I'm on Goddard every which way this game.
All right, so you're with me for those first 4.
Those 4 are on the target.
So I will let you choose who is the 5th here. I have 2 options. De'Ami Brown, 40+ yards, would make that 5 thing parlay plus 380.
Mm-hmm.
Or McLaurin 70 plus yards. That's plus 437 if you throw that one in.
Does it have to be a Washington receiver for the fifth leg of this thing?
It does. I needed one Washington. Why, you don't want it to be a Washington receiver?
Well, the numbers are all over the place. It would be McLaurin. I would feel much more comfortable with the idea of McLaurin, especially because it could come by way of what we watched against Detroit, which is like a really smart play, like a bubble kind of play, a wheel route, something that is unconventional.
Well, who's catching the ball?
Something that McLaurin is going to be catching, but really it's Austin Eckler and it's Zach Ertz. That's who's catching the ball for Washington. Those are your ball control guys. That's how you matriculate the ball down the field. That's how you possess the ball and have 8 to 12 play drives and drives that take 7 to 9 minutes, which is absolutely the pathway for Washington to potentially win this game.
So
Ertz
Eckler
and Eckler.
There's an alternate Eckler rushing receiving where 25 plus is minus 470 and 40
he's going to get
plus,
that receiving. He's going to get
40
that
plus is minus 165. So you want to put that in instead of your receivers? Austin Eckler gets 40 plus rushing receiving yards.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't think he's going to get a ton of touches in terms of the running game, but he is such a crucial outlet for Jayden. He factors into every time Jayden's under pressure, Eckler is the guy that gets the first look. And no Nakobe Dean is such a big deal for Philly. Like, that would be the dude that I would worry about taking away the Eckler option, but I think I'll worry about that in this game. So I love the idea of Eckler. He's going to touch the ball a lot, in my estimation.
All right, so we're going to do Eckler as the fifth, and I'll give you the odds when we actually do $1 million picks. Let me write that one down. What were your props that you liked?
Dallas Goedert. I'm not sure exactly where the number is at the moment, but I had him over 38 and a half yards. There's an incredible case to be made. He has at least 47 receiving yards in the last 3 games. He's got a full-time role in the offense.
So would you go 40 plus yards for him and not 25?
I'm fine with 40 plus. I mean, I'm sure that ramps up the odds. I think that he's going to be a big time priority for Hurts, especially if he's hurt, which is, a terrible thing. But he is the safety valve for Jalen. Washington against tight ends this season, 26th in DVOA. And, he's the guy that occupies kind of a short area. So he'll get the touches. I like him over his receptions, which I think is 3.5, and I like him over his receiving yards as well.
I really have enjoyed betting him over the last few years in the playoffs because when he's actually healthy, he gets the ball, and he gets the ball in big spots, and I always feel good about having him in there. What else do you have?
I love Mahomes' longest pass completion over 34.5 yards. We talked a little bit about how the Bills have those injuries in the secondary since week 14, and this is not tied to injuries. Buffalo is 29th in drop back EPA. So teams are able to pass the ball. We watched this with our own 2 eyes with Lamar Jackson and that Baltimore offense. The Bills have allowed the 4th most passing yards since week 14, 3rd most per attempt on throws of 20 yards or more. And Lamar went 3 of 5 on 20-yard or more pass attempts. Both Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely had catches over 35 yards last week. And what I especially am keying in on here is Mahomes with the complement of receivers that we haven't really seen them. This is an element of the Chiefs offense we haven't really seen. And we intuit that the Chiefs show up to a game like this with a wrinkle that we haven't really seen. I think he's
what is it, 34
to get the ball
and a half?
down the field. 34.5. It was minus 108 on FanDuel when I typed this in.
Wow, I really like that one, House. House, good job.
Thank you.
Go take a dump and come back and we'll do $1 million pick. No, I'm kidding. All right, so we have some good ones. Is there anything else? Is there any kicker stuff we want to do? Nothing.
No, under no. So Jake Elliott to miss a point after. Yes, that mother effer. I mean, that was the difference between a 6-point non-spread and the 7-point cover.
Right.
Got to do Josh Allen over rushing yards at 47.5. I think you have to play that.
Yeah. I always feel like I lose on those. Do you like the unders in both of these games, or is it just me?
I think Kansas City and Buffalo have the
Could get
potential.
frisky.
They could, yeah, for sure. Because Buffalo, I think will be able to run the ball.
So that's 48.5, that over, and then the other one, Philly, Washington, is 47.5.
So that Kansas City Buffalo number moved. It was 47.5 earlier this week. So people are catching on to this over.
I think both these games are going to be very similar, with these teams methodically going down and trying to keep the other team's offense off the field. All right, let's do it. Last but not least, do you like Washington plus 6.5 with juice? It's minus 120 on FanDuel, or Washington plus 5.5 even odds?
Oh, so I much prefer 6.5 to 5.5.
Okay.
6 is a key number, as we just watched on Sunday.
We did just watch it on Sunday. All right, it's time. The $1 million picks conference championship weekend, trying to rally. We lost some last week. We lost $585,000. Still up. This is why you build the nest egg during the season. Still up $1.282 million for this season. Joe House has been helping out a lot of the time. He's decked out in Washington, all his gear. We're going to take the Chiefs. Money line or minus 1.5?
However you like. Could do both. Both are fine by me.
Well, the money line is minus 126, and the minus 1.5 is minus 112. And I would just rather take the. You want to lay the point.
It's fine.
And then they win 24-23, and
okay.
I'm laying the money line. I'm paying the
That's
juice.
Fine.
Chiefs minus 126. We are not betting against the infrastructure. I did it last year on $1 million picks in the AFC title game. And I just said, never again, never again, never again. At least while they have this iteration of them. Chiefs minus 126 over the Bills. 300K?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then House's Washington. He officially said it's okay to call them the Commanders.
I'm saying it. They are the Washington Commanders because they took that name from the colonoscopy Jew's toilet, and they've propped it up. This name belongs to this guy right here, number 5 over my left shoulder, and he is the commandant of the Commanders. This is the Washington Commanders. I'm here for it. Hail to the C words.
We are banking on a close game, and we are grabbing Washington plus 6.5 at minus 120. This feels to both of us, and House has been very respectful of not veering too hard pro Washington. And even there was a couple weeks where I felt like you were intentionally not taking them because you were obeying jinx rules.
Could be.
I just feel like either team can win this game. There's cases for both. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles won by 28.
Me
I wouldn't
either.
be surprised if Washington won by 10. I'm prepared for anything. That means take the points, putting 300K on that. We are going to do some 25K props, including Mahomes, longest pass, 34.5 yards, 35-yard Mahomes pass, we win. Mahomes over 4.5 carries, minus 128. Josh Allen TD, minus 115.
Love it.
We're doing 25K on Kelsey, 68 plus yards with KC to win, plus 202.
Great.
And then the Mac Daddy one, we're putting 50K on this one.
Let's go.
It's a fiver. Now let's put 33K on this one, actually.
Great.
Just for good luck.
Yeah.
Shout out to the legend, Larry Bird. Kelsey, 50 plus yards. Hollins, 1 catch. Daniels, 250 pass rush combined. Dallas Goedert, your guy, 40 plus yards. Eckler, 40 plus yards rushing, receiving combined. That is plus 522. Over 5-1 odds. Boom. And then just for the hell of it, I'm putting 25K on a KC Washington Super Bowl.
Wow.
Plus 518. Just because we built this nest egg all year. We're at the craps table. I'm just throwing shit all over the place. Why not? If you have a seat for House in a pro Washington suite, which there's probably 2 of them in Philadelphia, hit his Twitter. He's
I
available.
will be there. I am definitely available. I will be at this football game by hook or by crook. I haven't yet figured out how I'm going to get through the turnstile. I will not be wearing any identifying Washington garb. I can tell you that much. But I am available.
Maybe some
if you
Washington
have a
underwear
spot for me. I promise I won't eat all of the food in the suite. I promise. Hand
And
up.
nobody's
Left
allowed
hand
to punch house. House is old.
Left hand up.
Those are the $1 million picks for week. What week is this? 21? Week 21, conference championship. House, good luck. We're all rooting for you.
Thank you, buddy.